I made a video yesterday which was about breath work, and in that I spoke about some of my mentors and the people who had helped me in my personal training and personal growth towards that. And I also said that I would post today, and what I would do is if anybody had any questions I would answer them. So I got quite a few emails, and one of the emails was that how do you get a mentor? And I think everybody's looking for somebody who's going to teach them, who's going to show them the way. And we all need teachers. When we're born, our primary carers, our mother, fathers are our first teachers, and they help us and support us, and they teach us how to speak, and they teach us how to walk, and teach us how to eat, and teach us how to do all those things. But as we get older, we look for other mentors, and we look for other people. So I'm going to just talk about some of the mentors I have had and the impact that they've had on me. And the first thing is that to understand why I look for mentors, you have to understand my background. So my mother and father split when I was about 5, so it meant that I really didn't have a male role model in my life. I was always looking for that person who could show me how to be a man. And I grew up in a house with 3 sisters and my mother. So I was the man of the house at 5 years old, which is basically not the best thing to be. So I was constantly looking for a male role model for myself that I could model myself on and acquire their skills and their abilities and their personalities to a certain extent and all those sort of things. So I'm primarily going to talk about the role models I had in martial arts and fitness and health and things like that. But I have to if I'm going into this, I have to say that my first real role model was actually my brother-in-law. That when I was about 11 or 12, when I was about 10, he came into my sister's life, married, and he was the first real male role model I had. And I started working at around about 11 years old. I had a Saturday job. He was a butcher, and he brought me in and he gave me a bit of a purpose, to be honest. He gave me something to do on a Saturday, because I lived in an area where there wasn't too many people to go out and associate with. So he was my first real role model. I was dyslexic. I wasn't very good at school. I didn't pay attention. I think if I had to get tested at that point, which they didn't do, I would have had some sort of attention deficit disorder type thing. I was hyperactive, quite annoying, I'm sure at times. But because I didn't really do too well in school, I came forward. When I left school, I didn't have many qualifications, so I moved into butchery with Ivan. And then at about 20, I moved to another place, which was with Bertie Maloney, and he really taught me a really strong work ethic. But let's get into the martial arts end of things. My first real role model was my first coach, which was a guy called Raymond Shaw, who in fact, when you look at role models, you look at people who are older than you, but he was actually around the same age, maybe slightly younger than me, but he was my first jiu-jitsu coach, and technically he was very, very sound, very strong in his technique. Around about the same size as me, maybe slightly smaller, which I always looked at in martial arts you looked at bigger, stronger guys, but he was light made up and very fast at movement, technically very strong. So he would have been my first real role model within jiu-jitsu. He was the national coach as I moved forward into black belt, and when he stepped down from that role, he asked would I step up to it. So he gave me the opportunity to take over that role, which was excellent. So I suppose the biggest role model I've had in martial arts is Professor Robert Clark. And when I got to black belt, and even before I became the national coach, I would fly over once a month over to Liverpool to train with him. So and this is before EasyJet and all these other flights, so the flights were very expensive in those days, so I could only go once a month, and I'd go over, I'd train for a couple of hours, we'd have a conversation. Sometimes he'd drive me back to the airport and we'd have a conversation in the car, and I totally admired the guy for all that he'd done and all work that he had, the organisation he had created, and that kept going until his passing. And he used to come over here to do the black belt gradings, and we'd have a meal together on a Friday night, and we'd sit in the car and we'd talk about jiu-jitsu and life. And one of the things that got sort of I found about him was that he was, although he was charismatic, he was very much his own man. He liked nothing more than just going for a walk with his dogs. You know, he didn't need the fancy things in life, and that's an asset to have. You don't need the fancy cars, you don't need the big houses. You're happy in yourself. So he'll be the second mentor I'd have. Then Spartaco Bertoletti, CK Spartaco Bertoletti. I got to know him more when Professor Clark passed, and you know, the man has so much energy. He's I think he's 77, 78, and when we're traveling together, I have a knock at the door, 6 o'clock in the morning, saying we're going for a run. And at his age, he'd be up early, he'd be going for a run, we'd be talking about life over breakfast. We would take courses. There's one of the last times I traveled with him, he picked me up at the airport and said he'd drive me to the venue and the hotel, and I said, okay, how far away is it? And he said 9 hours, and I thought, my God. And he was driving for 9 hours at his age and got out of the car fresh as you like. We didn't get there till about 11 o'clock, and the next morning was up running and doing everything that he does. So real inspiration. The next person I would say would that I would class as a mentor would be Steve Maxwell, and I've posted it on the World Jiu-Jitsu Federation page, one of his videos. Really worked with me very deeply. First of all, it was on my breath work, and then my mobility, and then my strength. And for 18 months, we were in contact every week. I would send him a record of everything I ate, how I was dealing with life emotionally, and obviously my training routines, and he would give me feedback on that. And that sort of really was key on me getting my mobility back, and it was key for me getting my strength back, because when I hit about 50, I'd lost a bit of that. I'd lost a bit of my intensity to life. So he's worked really hard with me, and I also have another breathwork mentor, which would be Patrick McKeown. He's the developer of the Oxygen Advantage. He's also a Buttigieg instructor, and he was the one who brought it to Ireland, and now he travels the world teaching about breathwork. So just while we're on the thing about mentors, this is my thoughts. When I was young, I expected my mentors to be everything. I expected something that I could just copy and be exactly the same as them. And what I found was that every single one of my mentors had flaws. Everybody has flaws. Nobody's perfect in any way, and I am certainly not perfect. But these guys sort of give me the ability to think where I could go, what I could do. And to be honest, I'm probably an amalgamation of all of the best parts I tried to take from them. Work ethic comes from some people. The ability to stick at things comes from other people. There's just small aspects of each and every one of them, and each and every one of them had their flaws. So if you're looking for somebody to teach you, if you're looking for somebody who can give you it's hard to express this, but a sense of who you want to be, then you have to go out and look for these people. They're not just going to land on your door. With regard to Steve Maxwell, I watched some of his videos online. I followed him as a trainer for several years, and what happened then is I reached out to him and said, would you come down and would you take some courses? And then we got to talk, and then we developed a friendship. The same thing going for Professor Clark. I flew over there, I made the effort, I put myself out to train under him. So if you want to expand, if you want to grow, you have to find the right people to do that with. I'm not saying you can't do it on your own, but what I'm saying is that we all need teachers. We all need people to teach us. There's a couple of people I forgot. Byron Clark, who rehabbed me after a very severe shoulder injury, and then I'd have to say John and Marie Rosper. Marie put the shoulder back into place after 3 or 4 months of not being able to feel my fingers. So fantastic people. So a couple of things before we finish. I think that everybody needs to have a mentor. Everybody needs to have someone that they can look up to and aspire to be like. But you also need to have people around you that are on your same level, that you can almost challenge yourself to be better than. I don't wish to push anybody down so I can be better, but you also need people to challenge you. And the third thing I think everybody needs is somebody to teach those things too. Because if you want to be better at anything, teaching it to other people is one way to be better. But obviously these people, these mentors, are giving their time and their energy and their expertise to me, so I think it's only right that I should be doing the same thing and passing that down the line. So I think it's really important that you have three people, or three types of people. One is a mentor, somebody maybe a bit older who's been there, done that, and can give you the insights you need. You need people around you that you can test yourself against. And the third thing is you need to be passing on that information. One last thing would be to say that as far as mentors go, my wife is a phenomenal mentor to me. She has given me, she gives me stability. And we all need people to give us stability, because sometimes you can get in life, I have a high position in jiu-jitsu and in a lot of things that I do, and sometimes you can get a bit too big for your boots. She brings me down to size and she keeps me grounded. When I get a bit down, she lifts me up, and we get a bit too big for my boots, she puts me back down again. So it really is important to have good people around you. So have a fantastic day. Hopefully somebody watches this and somebody gets something out of it, because I certainly get something out of helping people. Please comment below. If I can be of any help, I always will be. And if you need anything, just give us a shout. Okay.